Okay, so hey guys, I wanted to just take this time to break down the skill journal for you because I know there's questions about, how do you actually use it and how beneficial it is. So this one here is the first prototype I actually got printed, and it's the one that I started using. And this one is a later version, which has some changes that I changed based on my use of this journal here. So let's just jump in real quick and I can show you how I use my skill journal. Let's go to the first section, which is knowledge. Okay, so the skill I decided to document was graphic design. I've been a graphic designer for more than 7 years of my life, so it was a skill I knew very well, and so that's the first one I wanted to start off with. Okay, so notice, I dubbed the name graphic design skill, right? And then I talked about the sub skills. So I broke down all the sub skills that are in the skill set of graphic design. So then I go down to my brief description, and here I kind of describe the purpose and the main function of this skill. And so, excuse the sloppiness of it, but I broke down what graphic design is and how it's used and the very specific purpose of it. Now, detailed information deals with definitions, principles, historical content, anything of interest, anything that's unique to you, your experience and your knowledge. All right, and then as the knowledge section goes on, you have space to really break down detailed information. So I talk briefly about the history of graphic design here, and then I come down here and I speak specifically about a tool that I use as the grid. And so I break down that information, then I come down here to definitions, and I kind of define certain principles that, that I have them here. So when I want to talk about them, I can start off with defining what they are and then breaking them down into more details. And so that's how I kind of used it here. And then I come over here and I discuss procedures, different things you can produce with graphic design, and famous graphic designers that I know. Then I go into ideation and I talk about the process of it and what it's used for. All right, and then I go into some more information. Okay, after I finish breaking out all the details, I discovered there was so much more information that I could have gotten put down, but I didn't have enough space, so I actually added more space into the newer version of the skill journal. So let's quickly run down the tools section and how I break down my use of it. So what I like to do is in this section I just break down a specific tool. So I started with Photoshop, okay, and that's a tool that mostly all graphic designers know and use. All right, and then I break down the sub tools within that tool, because there's probably hundreds of tools in Photoshop that you can use. And then I talk about detailed description on Photoshop, and then just really about what it is, what the software is, who uses it, who created it, and the use of it. And so I get into the main functions, the main forms, and so on and so forth. So this is where I got so far. I did Creative Brief. This is a nice tool for designers to use, all right? And then talked about Illustrator, and I'm still writing it down. So what I normally do is I kind of go through and put the tools that I want to write down before I even write on them, and then come back to them later on. So now we can jump into the techniques. So this is where it gets really fun, because now you can lay out all the techniques that you know, right? And so this one is file organization technique, and it's a beginner level technique, so this is easy, something easy to learn that anyone can learn, mostly any beginner. And it just deals with the tools of the technique, is just folders and files. That's the tool. So and then you go down to the purpose, and you break down what is the technique used for, and then the specifics, how to use this technique. Now this is really good to know, because it helps you really kind of fine-tune how you do something, and then teach it to someone else step by step. And so that's what I really like about the technique section. And so yeah, I kind of do the same thing for these. And I'm still, like I said, writing stuff out. You know, this is stuff that you can use forever. You can come back to it, you know, and then just keep putting in new techniques as you go along. So now we'll go to the creative section. What I like to do is really think about a particular problem and how this skill can solve it. Okay, and so I break down a list of problems and then the potential solutions to it. And then down here is an innovative idea. So you pick out one idea and then you break down something that you haven't used the skill to do before. And then here you can just, it's a grid section where you can just kind of jot down and use it to formulate ideas. That's kind of the point of this here. Right, and you can use it any way you want. This is just how I like to use it. It really helps to understand that knowledge and education and personal development is an infinite game. What I mean by that is your development doesn't end after you get out of college. It doesn't end once you get a job. You know, it continues on as long as you live. And for me, most people, they think of it as a finite thing.